Miami Heat.
All right, I got this intro real quick here. So welcome back to Harland Podcast, and we're back to talking about Big Brother All-Stars, because like I said, it's that time of year again. We got special guest James from season 6 and 7 joining us to talk about the show this time. One of the first things I wanted to get into right away is, this game this week has probably been the most amplified it's been all season. One of the first things that caught my eye is Christmas finally deciding to build a resume and actually take some action. She won 2 competitions this week. Do you think that this was the right time for her to win these competitions and make any impact on the game, or do you think it's a little too early for her with her abilities?
Well, Christmas is the one person who, since day one, I didn't necessarily feel like she deserved to be there for All Stars. I thought there were plenty of other women they could have picked that had a resume. Her HOH competition, she didn't really do anything. She just was the last woman standing. Devon answered the question wrong, and that's why Christmas won. She didn't have to compete against anyone prior. She didn't really do anything. Just like her other competition wins, they were kind of all handed to her. I haven't seen Vito. I didn't watch this last episode because I've been paying attention to the feeds and kind of needed a break from it. But based on her nominations and her reason for nominations, I don't really think she's doing anything. I think she's playing it safe. Well, she thought she was playing it safe until it kind of blew up in her face. But if you're going to tell me in Big Brother All-Stars Week 5 that there's 2 winners that haven't been targeted once, who've never been nominated, you have actual compies in there. Now, granted, I know she's in alliance with, a lot of people, but there's still plenty of people to nominate that actually will have some impact if you remove them, as opposed to, Bay and Davon. I wasn't impressed with her move whatsoever. I wasn't impressed with I wish Head of Households were that easy to win when I was in, where you just sit around and end up having one fall in your lap, because maybe things would have turned out different for me. But it's kind of my take on Christmas. I mean, you guys saw the competition. She literally just was the last person left, so she had to go up against Devon, and Devon answered incorrectly, and then Christmas was Head of Household. So, yeah.
I agree completely. It's really annoying to see someone get to coast through an HOH competition and at the end, not even have to answer the final question correctly. That's what I think is the most annoying part of it all, is just watching her go up against somebody that dominated the competition. And then
Right, but that's been her MO. I mean, season 19, she made it to, I think, final 3, and she literally had a broken foot. Any person that's removed from the house for whatever reason, and my understanding from back when we played, you were disqualified. If Boogie had to leave the house for his foot to get stitched up, he would have been disqualified. She left the house and was in the hospital. She even voted from the hospital, over the phone, probably on pain medications. So I would think David has more reason to be in there, at least, we were hoping he would have done something, or was deserving of a second chance. But I'm not sold on this whatsoever. And then obviously before nominations with her and Nicole talking about, I'm so scared to make this nominations because I'm going to get shot or she'll stab me in the face. Come on, woman, you're the one who tried to kill someone with a car. I just think the whole thing's in bad taste. I get it. Everyone has to go home. I don't know. I know everyone on the internet right now is Twitter, especially say Twitter, because it's a big difference. Is oh, Christmas is a racist. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know her personally. I can't say she's a racist. It's not for me to say anyways. But with her trying to make Davon and Bailey look like the aggressive ones in the house, when you're the one with the mugshots on TMZ, I just thought it was poor taste. And for her to literally, Nicole be oh, well, production will stop. And she's well, what is it? She's fast. These are things that you're not fucking around. If I tell Howie, oh, you do this, I'm gonna fucking kill you, we're just kidding. But when you start playing into it, oh yeah, production would have to be there, but what if they're not fast enough? I mean, these are things that you're really thinking about in your head. the whole thing was in poor taste. So
Yeah, I agree.
That's my Christmas.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that a lot of the things Christmas says and does is ridiculous. And we've seen it on season 19 where she did a very similar thing where she, I don't know, she like invents these visions in her head of how her conversations go, and these personalities that people she doesn't like are supposed to embody. But in reality, they're like completely opposite. She did this with Dominique, and she did it with Jessica, and she likes to play to the point where she looks like she's the good guy in every situation. That's one thing I don't like about her. Is like, I'd like her a little more if she was willing to own up to the things she was doing and be like, hey, I'm screwing this person over. Oh, well, that's the game. But it's always, I'm screwing this person over because they're this evil monster that they're very clearly not.
Well, that was one of the things where people had a problem with Vanessa's game, because everyone's like, oh, I mean, I personally think Vanessa's, one of the great players, but she never owned it. And that's where I think a lot of fans had a problem with it. When you have these players who have to villainize their opponents in order to justify their actions, there's a problem with your actions. I mean, it's done in politics, it's done in every aspect of life. There's no reason you have to say other than, I am nominating you two because you all have to go home in order for me to get to the end. You know what? Perfect. But to create this, other dynamic where she tries to villainize all these people, it's just, I think it's, it's more to shit that's wrong with her as opposed to obviously the other person. Because they all have to go home. And that's why I'm not, if whoever goes home this week, if I'm putting myself in Christmas' spot, everyone in there has to go home with the exception of her and one other person, but come up with other reasons, is it a poor game? Was it a poor game move for Enzo to target Kaser last week when he could have backdoored Danny when they found out that Danny was doing all that, duplicitous stuff behind their backs? 100%. Was it weak as shit to send Kaser home? Certainly. But then don't talk like you're the big badness of the house. Be like, yo, I played it safe. We could have got Danny, but fuck it, Let's say she missed. Let's say we missed with the votes and she came after me, then I got to think long term. Not, oh, I'm fucking badass, I'm taking out fucking Kaser. No. That's not how it works. You have to own your game. And I think that's why people respect the old school villains, like Dr. Will and Danielle Reyes so much, because they owned it. If Will had pulled the same stunt that Tyler had pulled, with the whole, I'm going to try to get production to let me throw myself on the block, he would have been seen like a hero. Everyone would be like, oh, that's great, because he would have owned it, But Tyler now coming in with the excuse saying production won't let him get nominated. I mean, that's just flat out bullshit. Because Christmas the week before put herself up as a pawn. I went up as a pawn in Danielle Reyes' HOH against Janelle back in season 7. People go up as pawns all the time, and sometimes you go home. I just don't understand how production could step in and say, we can't let you go up on the block and say you want to go home. I mean, fucking Lawan self-evicted himself. You know what I mean? Like, thinking he was going to come back with special powers. So, this week, there's been a lot going on. I don't know necessarily how much gameplay is happening, but there's a lot of Big Brother drama, certainly.
That is true. There's been a lot of drama. It's essentially, you could argue that it's been one of the more entertaining weeks, even though I would kind of disagree in terms of the fact that the game doesn't seem like it's really shifted in any way, sadly.
Right.
But we did have another instance of a wall yeller. I just wanted to know, what are your thoughts on wall yelling? And do you think that it is like kind of poisonous to the game, or do you think it can be something that adds to the game in a positive way?
All right. So I am against any sort of fan interaction whatsoever. I don't like fans voting for shit. I don't like anything, because when a fan votes for something, the house guests get an idea of how they're being perceived in the outside world, and I think that that's detrimental to the game. If you're targeting person A and there's a fan contest and person A wins that, then you're going to start thinking, well, shit, am I targeting this person? What's it going to be like for me afterwards? I like the fans to just stay the fuck out of it. But also with the pregame alliances, I don't think the producers did enough to let the viewers and the other house guests in on all this stuff that they should have, because it's a part of the game. We were always like, if we heard a banner or a wall yellow, we're not going to believe them. I mean, these are literally fucking trolls who have nothing better to do. who are literally going to drive themselves to the CBS lot, brave wildfires and record heat waves to stand outside with a megaphone. You got to kind of think of what type of person legitimately contemplates this shit and then acts it out. You know, it's kind of like having Christmas scream something over the wall at you. You cover to take it with a grain of salt.
That's true. I think it's one of those things where, well, we've already seen it, and like people don't take it seriously, and it's just one of the. At this
Would I
point
use it against them? Fuck yeah! If somebody yelled to me that Ian, you know, or I would certainly use it against them. But that's the whole point. You use anything you can against people, which is what pisses me off, because you have Danny got second place, Nicole won, Ian won, Memphis got second place. They're not being targeted. They're not being mentioned. And if they are being mentioned, it's being brushed off. And we're like, let's go after, you know, I understand going after Janelle because she's a beast and everyone's scared of her because, you know, her legend still precedes her even after all these years. But Kaser over Danny, there's not one person who's ever been a fan of the show who thought that was a good idea. You know, there's no strategic value to it. There's no strategic value to separating Devon and Bailey. They literally haven't won shit in their entire combined Big Brother history. But you have 2 winners and 2 second place people sitting there in the house, just kind of like, you know. So
yeah. All right,
that is my problem with this season.
I'll jump in here. So with the possibility of like Bailey and Yvonne, one of them being evicted this week, which do you prefer to stay? Would you prefer to see Bailey go, or would you prefer to see Devon go?
The reason I would prefer to see Bailey go is because she'll go back to her life. She won't care. Big Brother will be done for her. You know, she's got a great support system. I love the fact that Chris, or Swaggy C, as everybody, you know, knows him as, has been so supportive. I think one of the big problems we have with the Big Brother community is your family doesn't get it. So they're not on Twitter. They take everything personal, but he's someone who's been on the show and he's seen it. He's, you know, been on the challenge, and he knows the reality world and toxicity and what support is needed and what stuff to just completely ignore. You know, a lot of times you have family members who are arguing with accounts that have like 1 follower for like, you know, 2 days straight trying to defend their family member that's inside the house. Whereas Swaggy, he knows he doesn't fucking do that. What did he care? And that's why I think that it'd be great for Bailey to just leave now, go back to her family, and just kind of put all this shit behind her. Devon still has a chance of winning. It's just another thing that that's kind of annoying is the fact that they're trying to make the nomination of these 2 races. Like I said, I don't know Christmas's intentions. If it is because they're the 2 black girls, which, you know, could be possible. We have all the microaggressions that are there that people like to talk about. But nobody has won comps that we've wanted. Kaser didn't win shit. Janelle didn't win anything. Bailey hasn't won anything. And Devon hasn't won anything. And that is why the house has been so one-dimensional, because it's literally the same alliance that's walking through shit. You know, and as much as people want to complain, you know, you got Andy Heron, who every day is like, oh, straight white males. Well, bro, somebody else has got to win a fucking competition. You know, production is not making these like biased comps. You roll fucking balls, you slide beer, or you answer questions about the house. There's no bias in that, you know. And if people, I get it, they're upset because their favorites are leaving, but they also have to they have to look back and like, what have my favorites done? You know, we had that quote, I think in All Stars, was like, you want something done, win the HOH. Until then, shut the fuck up. You know, I think it was Kaser that told it to me. You know, then I won the HOH next week. We still did what those idiots wanted. Just kidding, but we should have got Will. It's just one of those things where it has to be both-sided. You know, you have to win comps in order to get your stuff done. With these pregame alliances, there's not a lot of wiggle room for people shaking them up and breaking them apart. So you have a very divided, you know, like 2 to 3 segments of the house, and if you don't win, you can't say anything. You know, the competitions haven't been you know, difficult or one-sided. So I don't see people's argument on that.
That's very true. Well, since we're talking about competitions, are you surprised about how well Enzo's doing in competitions, seeing how like he never won HOH in season 12 and like, he's really went up with his competition wins this season compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not a historian, so if you ask me how many competitions somebody won from like last season, I probably couldn't even tell you. But Enzo came back in there on a mission. You know, he came back in shape. The guy was riding 12 miles a day. Came back physically fit, and the 40-year-old dude is winning comps. So that's why I'm saying these younger kids, you know, that we all love, should be stepping up and winning some shit. Good for Enzo to win the comps. I wish he had done something better with his head of household. Because had he gotten rid of Danny last week, because it would have been like a betrayal. It would have been a backdoor. You know, Nicole would have been on the defensive. Everyone would have been looking that, oh shit, this is All-Stars and anything can happen. And we just don't have that yet. In my most humble opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely the two sides, but it definitely would have been an interesting factor to see Kaser stay and see Danny leave. Like, I do feel as that would have shaken a lot of things up, alliances, how safe people feel. Like, you know, I feel like if Danny would have went home, Nicole F would have been like scared to, like, she would have had to have won HOH next week to feel safe.
It would have woken up everybody to the point to know that they had to win or there's a chance of them going home. Right now, everything has been literally at the, you know, discretion of a certain alliance. And I think it was 2 weeks ago where there was only one person in the house that said they didn't feel. Oh, so in case was nominated, only one person in the house said they didn't feel safe. That's a problem with All-Stars, because you need these people to realize this is probably your last chance at this, you know, and you have to make the move. I get preparing for the long game, but there has to be something done because your numbers are going to dwindle, and the jury management starts like day one. And by if you allow Bailey and Davon, based on their relationship, they're probably going to vote as one person in jury. You have Nicole and Danielle. When they go to the jury, they're probably going to vote as one person. You know what I mean? Like, those type things you have to look at breaking up. But those are your reasons for nominating people, perfect. But not because, for whatever reason, you think you're going to get stabbed in the face.
Yeah. I personally am very surprised by, like, Christmas saying that, because this season, compared to Big Brother 21, the editing has been so much better, I find. There's been real conversations. You don't see the bullying, racism kind of thing. They're actually bringing up real points about how, like the Black Lives Matter movement, the Kaser in Iraq, his religion, Ian and his autism talks and all that kind of stuff, which is way better, I find, for the outside world to actually know that there are real conversations that happen inside the house. Kind of.
No, I agree with that as well. I enjoy the real life moments, because when you ask me about why I'm still friends with Howie and Rachel and Kaser and Janelle and all those people from season 6, shit, and even 7, it's not because of, we have our favorite comp moments, but the bonds we made by learning about each other and getting to know each other, that's the best shit ever. That's the stuff that really matters, you know? All matters in the long run. When you're in there, what matters is to win. But there hasn't been the gameplay either. What are they going to show you? These segments between, like, Kaser and Devon, were great. But it's because Kaser was going home and nothing he would do was going to change it. What else you have to fill it with something, you know? And that's the problem, is that there's not strategy and there's not actual gameplay going on. Danny Donato setting herself up to be a great villain, but I just want her to own it, and I want her to stop telling it to everybody. Personally, I don't like her at all. I'd like to see her evicted, but if she's going to be the villain, then go for it, because we need that. But you need to own it.
I agree. I'm not exactly rooting.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I cut off right in the middle of saying something about Danielle. Basically what I was going to say was, I agree with you completely in terms of, like, she's setting herself up to be the villain. I just think she's doing it in the wrong way, where I don't think at the end of the day her gameplay will be able to speak for her, because the way she's playing, she's talking up this big game in terms of she's strategizing against all these great players, and she's making it seem like she wants to make these big moves, but ultimately she's choosing to take the safe way out every time. And I think that because of this, she'll end up being the first one of that big group to eventually get evicted. So she'll never actually have the opportunity to make the game-changing moves that would make her her gameplay and her villain status really memorable.
Well, it's like we talked about with anybody else. She has to win something, and right now she hasn't had to because she hasn't been threatened. The reason she got so mad thinking Tyler was trying to get her put up this week was because she realized she hasn't done shit, and she hasn't had to. You know, all she's done right now is basically just poison the well when it came to Janelle, Keisha, Kaser, that group, but she hasn't had to do any of the dirty work. And if she got backdoored this week, then she would have gone out with literally not doing a damn thing. So once again, it goes back to this house just kind of following this boring timeline of, all right, next week we're going to get Kaser, then next week we're going to get either Bailey or Devon, and after that, then we go after the person who's left. You know, just the same thing we've seen every single week. And hopefully, I think if Memphis were to win at a household, Memphis would finally put up someone and make an actual move, because he doesn't seem to really care about the bullshit. This would be the week that if you backdoor Danny during the jury phase, she's holding the grudge, and therefore you're losing both her and Nicole's vote because they're going to vote together. They're incredibly petty. I mean, you saw the wedding segment where she disinvited Janelle. First of all, who the fuck charges $3,000 for a wedding?
I know.
You're just a trash person for that. And if you're going to have a wedding where the hotels are going to cost $3,000, you have to understand that if people can't make it because we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic and nobody has jobs, or even when they have jobs, that's just too expensive. You know, then don't be surprised when nobody shows up. You know, I just don't really feel like they're that couple that should be having destination weddings or places that are that expensive, especially if the people they're inviting are like, nah, fam. But that's a side note. This week something has to happen once, you know, Devon or Bailey goes, because otherwise everyone's going to turn it off. You know, if Tyler wins at a household and his nominees are Kevin and David, you know, or fuck, who else was even last? You know, that's literally the next safe pick because they don't have any alliance, they don't have any teams. You know, Kevin and David, and whoever gets down, and you put up fucking whoever was left from this week, and it's just boring. You know, not what us as fans, you know, want to see.
So, if you think so, if Devon were to stay this week, which I could see it most likely
Pretty sure she's staying.
Devon's fan, and if she wins next week's head of household, do you think it'll be more interesting?
Fuck yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Devon is probably going to do. I always said in season 6, if I had a household, I would have went up to my room, shut the fucking door, and told everyone to fuck off. You know, because I had been nominated by every single person that was up in that house. You know, every alliance turned on me, every alliance put me up. I was going to make this decision by myself. I mean, obviously I knew I was going to put up Maggie in April, you know, but I think Devon should do that. She'd go into her room, enjoy her pictures from her family, read her letter from her daughter, and just decompress, come out for the competitions and go back in there. Then when you got to nominate, you nominate Christmas and you nominate Nicole, and then you put up Danny if one of them gets off. But you have to put up 2 people you want to go home. Fuck it, put up Tyler too. Fuck it. You know, go in there, ruin people's lives, because she's at the point where you've never won a competition. If you wouldn't have a household, make this move. We saw Jessica last year. You know, the season was starting to get like, it had been running in this stupid same pattern. And all of a sudden Jessica gets head of household and she's like, the jackasses, you're going on the block. You know, and that was perfect. And that was what we needed. And even though Jessica is one of those people who, when you think of like great players, she doesn't like register with you, but that move is something that was iconic for her season because it was the first time somebody stood up to the people that were just running the house. And that's what we need from Devon. She's already an iconic Big Brother person, you know? So that would be
Yeah.
great if Davon just got head of household, went up to her room and was like, fuck it, I'm out.
I agree.
No one's done that, you know? Like, that'd be great. Just get the fuck out of here. And don't eat my food.
That's true. She probably just like, you just talk to Kevin, Ian, and then outside of that.
Nope. Keep them all the fuck out. Let them sweat. And then after the nomination ceremony is when you go to people and you're like, listen, Ian, I know you won this game. I know you're a great player, but I didn't put you up because of this. Kevin, whatever, I don't even know what the hell type player you are, but I didn't put you up because of this. If you start telling people things beforehand, they're all going to talk. You can't trust anyone in that house, okay? So you don't tell anyone shit. And the moment you're done, you tell them why you did what you did. Because the problem is people get ahead of themselves. How many times do you hear in the season, oh, if you get head of household, who are you going to put up? And then it goes back and forth to everybody that you talked about putting up every day because you don't have anything else to do but talk. But if you don't give people something to talk about, then you already have that advantage. You go back in there afterwards and say, Tyler, you know what? I thought about putting your ass up, but this is why I didn't. And that is what is going to have people respect why you did what you did, you know, because everyone promises a lot and falls through on that shit. And then there's no respect. You don't realize you can trust somebody. But when you're looking for anything you can hold on to in that house, a lot of times that little just gift of trust that you gave them or understanding could help you swing it one way or the other. It would definitely come down if you're trying to decide, you know, a jury vote. You know, once again, these are just my opinions, and this is also me talking about what the game was like when I played, because that's the last time I remember the emotions and everything from being in there. You know, the game has obviously changed a bit.
Yeah, it's a great example of like what you just said about making your nominations and telling someone afterwards. It can be great for your game, but it also can be a downfall to your game. We've seen it in season 19 when Cody didn't tell anyone he was going to put up Paul, yet then told everyone afterwards.
See, that's different. Cody was smart because production was doing everything they could to save Paul. How many people did Cody have to nominate? He had to put up like 7 people that fucking week with all these stupid ass twists and everything. You know, maybe not 7, but it was pretty close.
I think it was like 5.
Yeah, it was 5.
Yeah, 5 people because production was like, no, save Paul and his fucking friendship bracelet, bitches. You know, that's not the way it should work. It was literally, this is a different type situation. You know, they're all returning house guests. And that way also, because here's the deal, like there's these powers that are floating around as well. And I don't think everybody's too completely sure. So if you start passing stuff out there, you allow them to prepare for that. And you don't want anyone to be able to prep for what you're going to do. And if you say, oh, if you tell Kevin that you're going to nominate Nicole and Danny, then or Nicole and Christmas, they're already planning and conspiring with those people on how to the best case scenario to get out of it. Davon doesn't have alliances. Like there's no one that she can really, I mean, they've been starting to build up this week, but I really feel like for her, the best thing for her to do is to just talk to people afterwards, make them be reactionary. Don't allow them to plan ahead, because by giving away your strategy, you just, I mean, that's what Kaser did, you know, so it's a couple seasons. He tells everyone what he wants to do. And yeah, well, it's great when you tell your alliance, but it's not good when you tell everyone else. So I say just let it ride, you know, tell them afterwards, give them the least amount of time to become reactionary. You know, guerrilla warfare.
I think it would definitely be a very, very, very interesting week, and probably the best week we've had so far if Davon was to win, no matter what she plans on doing.
Completely.
So the meeting's going to end in 3 minutes, but I can start up another one and send an invite to both of you right afterwards.
Oh, yeah, because we still got lots to talk about.
It is true. Recording
All right.
started.
Now, to continue on the BB22 All-Stars topic, how do you feel about Tyler wanting to quit Big Brother All-Stars and go home?
Tyler quitting I don't necessarily believe it based on. So I saw like him crying and teary-eyed shit with the sunglasses on and all that. But here's the problem I have. Production can't stop anyone from nominating someone. They can't. And if Tyler wanted to be nominated as a pawn or in any other circumstance, I just can't see how production could step in. Now, if he was like Chima and threw his microphone in the pool and was like, fuck this, I'm out, I get it. You know, if he had physically harmed someone, stuck a knife to his throat like Justin or somebody with the J from season whatever the fuck it was, then I get it. But if somebody wants to go on the block, that's the game. You know, production can't interfere with it like that. And I don't understand his excuse saying production won't let him because it'd be quitting. No, quitting is a DOR. Quitting is walking out the back door or the front door. You know, just because you're on the block, it doesn't mean you're going home. It means you have a 50-50 chance of going home. So there's nothing guaranteed he would quit unless he walked out the door by himself. So I don't understand when you look at, you know, Lawan and his superpowers. I myself have been asked to be put up as a pawn. It's been part of our strategy before. Everybody has done it. Christmas was a pawn the week before, you know. And we've seen pawns go home several times in Big Brother, and a lot of times without them even expecting it. So I think CBS may have changed his mind inside the diary room, and he's just saying production says he can't because that's an easy way to back out of it. I don't know how his heart is or his head is. I've always thought he was a pretty good guy. Danielle Reyes and I were talking about this yesterday or the day before, whenever it all popped off. And she's the one that actually sent me the clip, and I was watching, like, man, he seems legit. But I don't know, because it doesn't make sense for production to say that he couldn't go up on the block. Because he's not quitting. You only quit if you walk out, because there still has to be the vote. Anything could happen. Tyler could go up there and someone could use their power, right? I mean, there's a million different things that can happen. So I just don't necessarily believe his whole production won't let me do it, because that just doesn't hold water.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe, especially when you look back, like you said, like, you know, you volunteered as a pawn. Lawan straight up volunteered to go up and go home. Clay campaigned for eviction votes against himself when he was up against Shelly. So it's really hard to believe that people aren't able to all of a sudden make that volunteered decision.
Yep. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But we've had a similar situation, and I don't know much about like the actual rules like that they might tell you guys when you play, because I know that we've seen house guests tell people they're going to get nominated beforehand. But back in season 12, Brendan had told Brittany he was going to put her up, but then production said that was against the rule, and he was no longer allowed to put her up for nomination. It's never happened since, and it didn't happen before that. But so we've had situations where it seems like rules kind of come out of the blue for certain things.
No, we have, just like, you know, the Cody and Paul thing we talked about on 19. I just doesn't make sense to me. And because none of us are privy to any of those conversations, to make an educated guess on it, we can just assume, and we can talk about our assumptions for hours and still not make a point. So
Yeah,
you just have to let this one go.
Yeah, well, no one will ever know aside from Tyler, production, and whoever Tyler decides to tell. One of the things I wanted to ask about was, what are your thoughts on the three powers enter the game? Like, do you think that some of them are kind of useless? I know Danielle was like really upset because she thinks her power sucks like completely. Or do you think they can be used in a way that could be a positive effect to certain people's games, like the ones that did actually end up winning him?
So the only power that I'm aware of that I actually know about is the one that David can cancel one of the nominations. So that is obviously a great power. It's a great power if you have an alliance. I don't know what the other two powers are. So I certainly would have loved to have canceled some nominations out in the past. But what are the other two powers?
Danielle's is
going to whine about everything. That's what she does, the whiner.
That's true. Danny's is she basically if you win HOH, you can't compete in the next week, but if you have that power, you can compete in the next week after winning one. So you could potentially win 2 in a row.
That's a good power.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good
That's a
power
great
too.
Power. Could you imagine if someone that the thing is, if you don't use what you have to your advantage, then that's your fault. The have-nots, I think, had the potential to be epic, but this cast fucking ruined them. Can you imagine on another season? Do you think people would be volunteering to take have-nots? If I was a have-not, I guarantee you all week long, I'd be like, you know what? You put me up, you're a fucking have-not next week. You know what? Or, oh, you want to talk shit? Guess who's a have-not next week? Anything you can do, you can use. Anything, literally, these people are asking, who wants to volunteer? No. You're a have-not, you know? Or, hey, work with me. Vote for me. Blah, 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 whatever it is. I'm not going to make you a have-not next week. Who do you want to be a have-not? You know what I mean? Like, all these things that these people just, they don't think because they haven't had to for the majority of the cast. But season 6, imagine that, having have-not, and you get to give it to somebody the next week. You could literally tell your alliance every week what things to use those, because you don't have anything. Just take whatever you can get and use it to your advantage. And they don't think like that because they've had such fucking cakewalk.
Yeah, I agree, and I think
Nobody's
that
had to, like, work or barter.
yeah.
But to win HOH and be able to play the next week, that's a huge power. I mean, you got, obviously, I'm assuming there's a time limit on it, or like statute of limitations, but later on, that could be very, very important, provided she sticks around for it.
That's true, and I don't know
What's the
how
other
the
one?
power works. Like, I don't know if she can give it to someone else, because imagine if you're able to give that power to someone else too. Like, it's something that you can really use for leverage. Like, a good example would be like if Davon were to win next week, Danny could use that power as a way to be like, hey, if you keep me safe, I'll let you have the power to compete again next week. And
Yep.
You're here for another 2
And
weeks.
not only you keep me safe, I'll be competing with you. So that's 2 chances you have now of being safe the following week instead of, you know, just the head of household. You know, you got to use it for as much as you can. But yeah, what's the other power? Who have?
I know
Kevin have
Christmas.
one?
Christmas is the one that
Oh,
won the
Christmas.
third
What does
power.
she have?
I'm trying to figure that out because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, no, it's Christmas for sure who has it, but I don't remember exactly what the power is.
She gets access to her car.
That would be very valuable for her. Yeah, I have no clue what her power is. I just don't. Oh yeah. Yeah, no clue. I know David's and Danny's is because we finally figured out David's last, and then Danny was complaining about hers. So. Oh yeah, the blocker power.
That's David's, right?
Oh yeah. Twitter's probably not the most
No, you're not going to
efficient
find
way
anything right
of
now.
figuring out.
Janelle just tweeted, so Twitter's going to be insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, talking about the powers, do you think it was a mistake for David not to use his power this week, or is it like obviously he should be saving it for himself in case he does go up in those next 2 weeks?
David is that wild card because he really doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing. He doesn't really have. The problem is that the people that wouldn't turn on him, he will easily turn on. I mean, maybe he won't now, but before, it didn't seem like he had any sort of loyalty to Davon and Bailey. Whereas now, I think he might kind of be swinging to that side. It would have been great television for him to use it this week. Now, who they would have put up in, if he had saved Bailey, that would have been a bigger deal than saving Devon, because Devon people like. You know, Bailey, there's obviously the fights that are going on. With Christmas, she has a history with Tyler. But you take her off, then Christmas has to really think about who she's putting up. And that's the point where maybe production, maybe other people can kind of influence her to actually put up someone and make this a good week. So if you put up, let's say, Kevin, you know, against Devon, you're really, really wasting your head of household week. Obviously, David would be safe. This is one of those times where maybe you go, shit, maybe it would have been Ian that was put up in the place, you know? But it still would have been someone that's going to make a bigger impact on the game than getting rid of Devon.
That's true, and it would definitely put Christmas in. Well, it would have made, I think, the whole all-girls alliance that was made that ultimately crumbled like a minute later. It would have made it a little bit more interesting because I think it would have put Christmas.
Okay, there was never an all-girls alliance. Let's just realize that. Girls have gone home every single week with the exception of one. You can't have an all-girls alliance with Nicole, who only goes after girls, you know, or Danny, who's been sabotaging them for personal reasons, or Christmas, who nominates two girls. Like, let's just throw that out the window. It's like the LOD. It sounded good on fucking paper, but it was just fake. You know what I mean? Like,
but yeah,
come on.
It was just made to, just like, so a way for them to pull Devon back in because that's who they wanted to stay that week. But I guess it would have just made the dynamics of the whole week interesting. It would have put Christmas on the back pedal where she would have had to try and rebuild her relationship with Devon and Bailey. It would put Tyler in a different predicament too, just because he would be forced to show his cards to Devon.
This season, we're gonna have more conversations about what could have been or what should have been than what actually happened, and that's very unfortunate. But it's the way this thing is turning out. Now, granted, the last 6-7 weeks of this could be epic, you know, because they have to eventually turn on each other. But it's just everything up into it suck. And normally the seasons are good in the beginning and they suck towards the end because they get rid of like all the big competitors and all the fights and stuff happen then, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I think CBS has to really sit back and kind of figure out what's going on with the show and what they can do to make things. If you're bringing out these powers now, why not bring them early? Like, I understand why in a non-All-Star season why you don't bring out the powers real quick, because who gives a fuck about these people? But if you had done these competitions, you know, for these powers earlier in the game, I think that would have been better than doing the safety suite. The safety suite is something you could do now, you know, because it forces their hand on the alliances. But it doesn't, these powers, everybody's already set with how they feel. But if you had the safety suite, now you're seeing who really trusts people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So give the powers in the beginning. That would have been great, you know, if the first week there was a blocker power. You know? Oh, guess what? Somebody just say, or person A just say person B. Then you know that, okay, there's something going on there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that type of stuff. Or being able to play household 2 weeks back to back. These things could have made a big difference if they had just reversed them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the safety suit was one of those ideas that, like, the whole idea about it made a lot of sense. It was just they implemented it way too early, like you said. Like, the reason why it's such a good twist is it forces people to reveal some of their cards to everyone.
Correct.
And then when you do it that early, it's so much easier for everyone to just be like to plan week by week, like they did essentially plan like who was going to be this person getting saved.
You have to. Correct. Because there were too many options left. There's only one person can win it. They can save one person. And guess what? Out of 16 people, now 14 people, 13 minus the head of the household. And the next week, 12 people. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, had they done this now, would have been a lot better. Come on. When the door's closed, my dog wants to. play underneath it, so he's just gonna keep scratching.
So I guess Christmas. Okay, so Christmas's power does have something to do with the veto. I guess someone said she can stop someone from being a renom or something like that.
It's probably gonna be on like the CVS website or something.
Oh, yeah, it probably would be on here.
Oh, then what else we got? Because got like a few more minutes.
All right, quickly. One question I wanted to make sure that we covered is, who do you genuinely think Cody is really loyal to at the end of the day? Because Cody's probably the one that is tangled in the most connections and deals right now in terms of people genuinely believe they have him on his side. So when it comes down to it, who do you think he's going to choose at the end?
And that is a really good question, and that is one I don't necessarily have an answer to. I think the reason Cody's in a good spot is because he does have all those, and I think that he will go in the direction that's going to suit him best. Because with power changing obviously weekly, hopefully, he's going to have to, work whatever relationships that he's established. And I don't necessarily think he's going to be trying too hard to get ahead of the household because he is in pretty good with a lot of people right now. I don't know if him and Nicole really have this super strong, alliance, or I know everyone talks about like Derek, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, to be honest, everyone pre-games like, fuck it. If somebody pre-game better than the other person, that's good for them. But I don't know. I think Cody is in a good spot to just kind of let other people, make the moves, and then him just kind of lean that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Tyler, I feel, is kind of in the same way too.
I would agree. Just the only thing with Tyler is that some people are like a lot more paranoid about him. Like we just seen with Danny kind of freaking out about Tyler. Nicole has been constantly questioning Tyler. Enzo and Cody have had conversations about how they don't really trust Tyler. So he seems to be a little bit more towards the bottom of the totem pole of that group, where Cody, I feel like he's straight up the head of it right now.
See, the thing is about Tyler is that I think like Tyler's season was not the most recent season, but he's the second to most recent. Cody, where Cody played like what, 5? No, it's not 5 years. A few years
7.
back. So like maybe he's a bit less forgotten about compared to Cody. I mean, compared to Tyler, where everybody just seen how manipulative he can be and how many final twos he can have and etc.
But he walked right in. He's doing the same damn thing.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I think also Cody benefits.
Thing.
He really benefits from the fact that when people think of Cody, they think of Derek, and they think about how loyal he ultimately was to Derek. And I think everyone's putting themselves in this position where they think that they're Cody's Derek, when no one is really Cody's Derek. And I think that he benefited from the reputation of being a really loyal player. With Tyler, he was never really 100% loyal to anyone.
Right. And a lot of people still think Tyler should have beat Casey. Casey was my pick from day one to win, so I'm glad she won. But yeah, that's I think a person that's kind of fell into a good place right now is Memphis. His head of household week, everyone's like, "Oh, Memphis is being such a dick." Bro, he's just a cranky old man. He's just like I would be in there. I would have told David he didn't deserve to be there either. So you're being nominated. Now you got to play. I probably would have picked a different house guest every single day to remind David that they should have been in here over him. It's what you do. Like he was there for a couple hours. Like Memphis has every right to talk shit about that. You know what I mean? Like Chicken George, I didn't think should have been on All Stars because he played in a different brand of Big Brother, where it was popular vote that evicted people every week. I had no problem telling him that. It turned out he had a bigger heart than everybody else. That's why he was on slot for 65 days or 63 days or some shit. So, but yeah, I think Memphis is putting himself in a good position right now because you don't hear about him. He's just kind of grumpy old man with a back problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
shocked. Something I want to cover.
Go ahead.
Who do you? So, like you just said about Christmas and David, shouldn't be on All Stars. That's what you think. So, who do you think should have been in their spot, like instead of Christmas instead of David.
Well, David, for example, when I met him last year after his season or his week, I thought that he was someone that deserved to have another chance. The thing where I've swung on David was when I found out that he was in sequester and he didn't do any research. You know, he's obviously admitted a million times in the house that he has no idea what's going on. So for me, that was what was really disappointed. But I would have said that to his face inside the house just because I wanted to use that against him. I wanted to kind of like break him down. Not that I really meant it, you know. So obviously, like with Christmas, for example, Vanessa couldn't go because of the babies. Rachel couldn't go because she's pregnant. Jessica Nixon couldn't go because she's pregnant. What was wrong with throwing Natalie Negrati back in there? You know, Natalie, I think, would have been great instead of Christmas. You know, why not? No showmance this time. See what she can do. She's kicked some ass on some challenges. Throw her in there. You could have thrown Beach. Throw a vet from season 6 in there over Christmas. At least the vet played her entire season and got the final 2. You know what I mean? Who else we throw in there? Portia. Why not Portia? She got 2nd place. There's so many girls there's so many people, you know, that could have been in there. Danielle Reyes, obviously, we all wish was there, but she couldn't because of just whatever reasons. But yeah, I think I would have rather seen Natalie in there 100% over Christmas. Could have had a better argument. Portia played, kicked ass, got final 2. Plus, Portia going in would have been an alliance partner for Janelle because they're friends. Why not? So there's a lot of, you know, like I said, I'm not the historian, so I'd have to actually look at seasons and be like, oh yeah, this cast sheet, I think that person should have gone in there or whatever. But a lot of different people. But it's the season we have, and this is the cast we have. So my opinions on who should or shouldn't be in there don't really matter because the show's on and we're watching it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got different opinions on who should have been casted and who shouldn't have been. But at the end of the day, we don't have a say in who gets casted. You know, it's all CBS. So.
Yep, exactly. And if you don't like it, don't watch it. You know.
Yep.
Exactly how it works. But we're all going to. You know, some people turn it off. I guarantee you, before, you know, with Janelle and Gator there, I was making sure that I was in front of that TV episode. I just didn't feel like watching. Didn't want to deal with it. No biggie. Don't want it. So this week I'll be watching. I want to see how the production spins this whole Christmas and what's it called?
Oh yeah, I do gotta
Daily
watch for
stuff.
that.
I would love to see how this edit's gonna go down.
Yeah, we didn't even get to see the Christmas and
100%.
Tyler conversation at all. So there's so much that we need to like. Well, we're not gonna see any of it. Anyway.
I want CBS to show Christmas saying that she's scared if she nominates these 2 girls that she's going to get shot or stabbed in the face. And Nicole saying, no, production wouldn't let that happen. And Christmas saying, yeah, but she could do it really fast. That needs to be on there.
Yeah, that definitely needs to be on there. And then I hope that they don't. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to end up editing around the whole Tyler wanting to quit thing somehow. I just really hope they don't.
Oh, yeah, that was like Jeff's Dumbledore or whatever comment. That'll never make the show.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Gone.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to kind of look like they're going to make it look like Danny, Day, and Nicole tried to push for a Tyler backdoor, and then Tyler saved himself, and Christmas and Tyler are locked in together is what I assume is going to happen since everything else was blocked, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. I wish Big Brother would just do feed recaps and not put the whole thing on. I just can't imagine that they make so much money on the feeds. Whereas if they just did feed recaps, like forget what country it is, didn't have the live feeds on there, I think you'd find a lot more people that are willing to go on the show. A lot more people that are older that have more to lose than, like, Memphis, for example, when everyone said that he called David a boy. The internet went nuts. They started attacking his businesses and this and that, and then we find out it was a fucking lie. Do you think real people who have their jobs established and stuff like that don't take that into consideration when they turn this stuff down? Think about it. If you've worked your entire life for something, maybe did Big Brother 10, 15 years ago, and then they're like, oh yeah, you want to come back on here for $40,000? Motherfucker, please, $40,000 to lose my job, lose my livelihood, for watch my 401k disappear over something that's fake? Not worth it.
Feed recaps
Not worth it.
Solve the whole problem of feeds in general. Like
well, because I understand that the whole Orwellian concept of Big Brother and wanting to have all of it live for the fans, but it's a show first and foremost, and their job is to make money and to make profit. And if all you're going to have applying for your show now, because this is the way society is and has evolved, are a bunch of people that want to be influencers, then how much longer is your show going to last?
Yeah.
It's just going to be replaced with the next Love Island or, whatever Love Shack shit, or, there's 1,000 of them now that are all spin-offs.
It's true. I mean,
yep.
I think one of the biggest...
I'm going to have to bounce in a moment, so go ahead. I'll give you another question or two.
All right. I'll ask last question. What do you think ultimately happened in that HOH room with Christmas and Tyler? Do you think Tyler really went up there all the way and said, hey, I'm out, do what you want at the end of the day, but I want gone? Or do you think there might have been, maybe he revealed that he wasn't being 100% genuine and it was really part of a strategy, like kind of like how Dan did Dan's funeral. He said he wanted out, then he went up with HOH room with Frank, and then it was a whole other story.
Yeah, so it's really bullshit that CBS cut all that stuff off, because this is what Danielle Reyes and I were talking about the other day, and she wanted to err in Tyler's favor, and say that he's a good guy, he really meant it. Tyler's got a lot going on for him in the outside world, so I could see where he really was doing that, but there was nothing, because he's doing the whole like Black Lives Matter stuff. He never mentioned anything like that before. When people were talking about putting up those two girls, he was never like, do you think it's a good idea? So I don't know, and I don't know him well enough to make a decision to judge on that. So it's really hard to tell, and I'm hoping that these episodes give us a clue to what's going on. But I do know that production can't tell you not to nominate someone, and can't tell you not to put yourself on the block. Like, we've seen it a million times. And if they were threatening him, like, oh, if you say you want to go up and leave with your stipend, no, contractually, that's fine. If he wants to go out, one of the doors and do the DOR, the drop on request, then contractually you don't get paid. But for him to just be like, put me up, I want to leave, can't stop that. Because you still have a vote. You don't have a 50 chance of going home when you're on the block. How it works.
Yeah, yeah, the whole thing is just really sketchy, and hopefully we get some clarity, but I doubt it. I really don't think it's gonna be it's one of those things that I think eventually is just gonna end up being forgotten in terms of the overall story of this season, because I don't even see it.
He will be asked
about
it. He will be asked about it in every interview he does, and he better have a really good answer, because to be honest, like, people are going to come for him for that, Christmas. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I want a good season. People always ask me who I want to win, and I don't really care right now. I just want a good season. I want it to not be predictable, and I want people to play the game. I'd like a house vote to be split. I want people to not feel safe. And we just haven't seen that at all this season. Each week, one person feels unsafe, and that's because they know they're not going home. It's that simple. And that's for a very boring TV show.
Yeah, I agree. I was really hoping for something a lot more exciting this year, especially with the whole All-Stars 2. Everyone's been waiting for so long for this exact season to happen, and we just had arguably two of the last 3 seasons being 2 of the more uninteresting seasons.
You can say it's 2 of the worst.
Yeah, 2 of the worst seasons the show's ever had, and I was expecting something huge from this one, and it's just turning into kind of being on that same level as 19, really, in terms of the actual gameplay.
Correct. But now leave it on this. I mean, the whole thing about COVID-19, they weren't able to do casting. They probably weren't planning on doing All-Stars. Or who knows? Maybe they were. Maybe that's why they're reaching out to all of us in the beginning of the year. But it's what we got. They couldn't do casting. There were a lot of people that were affected by certain things. Jared didn't want to leave his family, and all the other ladies that are starting new families or adding to their family. It's what we got. We just got to make the best of it. If you don't like it, don't watch it. But it's what we have based on the circumstances. So, got to deal with it.
Yeah, that is true. Hopefully, all we can hope for now is hopefully better future seasons with new interesting players joining the ranks. That's what I'm hoping for in the future.
They have to switch up the dynamic of the house. It has to stop being so predictable. There need to be twists or competitions that are put in there. One of the things that I've been suggesting to Allison for a long time was that when you have a veto competition, that every veto comp should have the opportunity for, let's just call it for lack of a different word, the diamond power veto. So let's say you have the first person to get 10 balls in their container, to make it basic, wins the veto. All right. But if you get 20 balls in, then you get the diamond power veto, and then you get to pick the nominee. All right. So, but if you surpass 10 and you're on 11 when someone else gets 10, you don't win because you've already decided to go for the diamond power veto. So if you did the veto competition, if they had this to where if you do twice as much or you do something exemplary during that competition, you win the diamond power veto, I think that would be an incredible addition to each week because I'd be like, yo, not only am I going to win the veto, I'm getting the fucking diamond. But if you're at 19 and not 20 and somebody else gets 10 or gets that puzzle, whatever, then they win and you lose. I think a lot of people would play it safe, but there would be weeks where you would have people fighting for that diamond. And I think it would add an interesting twist every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would actually be really, really cool because it especially reminds me of a better version of the HOH comp that I like, the slippery slope one where they have all these different options of safety HOH or have not or whatever, and they have to fill up the jar. I think Frank won it back in 14 or whatever, and that would be sick just because it would just add so much more to the game in terms of who's really gonna put their all in. Less people throwing competitions too, that's for sure. More of a reason to go for it.
Yeah, because if you know that person gets to pick the nominee, now imagine the veto bag, it gets picked so it's heavily in your favor. Then you're like, fuck, all we have to do is make sure this one person doesn't get 10 before you get your 20. So then you can pick the replacement now. This could be game changing, and fuck, everything else, if you try and it doesn't work, scrap it. But at least it's something that should be worked into it.
Yeah.
Because it would create an extra dynamic and a subplot inside the veto competition. I think it would help. I would have gone for it every single time.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see for sure.
It's just people are so used to what's going on, and you get these people that are historians and they know that, okay, this is how this competition is run. It loses that excitement, because you can tell. So, no, that's all I got. I got to bounce, guys. But I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for coming on. It was really fun having the chance to talk to you about the season and everything. We really appreciate you coming on.
So thank you. And let me know when it's out, and I'll just, share it and try to get it out there as well.
For
Yeah.
sure. I'll send you the link for sure once it's out.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining
Thanks,
us. It was fun.
No, I appreciate it.
See
Thank
ya.
you guys. Later.
Later.